Uh, and that's the funny thing. So I'm gonna dip into something else a little bit. The funny thing was, right when that started to happen, and my mom kind of brought that up, not too long right afterwards, my dad kind of threw his hat in the ring. My dad was a little bit of a wrestling fan back in the day. Even up during my favorite era of pro wrestling, my favorite era of pro wrestling is the Ruthless Aggression era. Whenever I watch any matches, when I study matches, it's usually either from the New Generation era or from the Ruthless Aggression era.
Two great eras,
So
underrated periods.
very much, especially the New Generation era. There was a lot of great matches there. I understand people like, they try to, diss it a little bit with the gimmicks and some of the things that I guess weren't catching on where wrestling wasn't as popular for some people before you get right to the Attitude Era. And in comparison, I guess obviously the Attitude Era looks way better than the New Generation era, but a lot of my favorite matches to watch and to learn from and take a little bits and pieces from stuff. A lot of those were during the New Generation era, and then obviously the Ruthless Aggression era. That was mainly where I was
Yeah,
watching. So as a fan, I was there. I was very much in tune. But with the feud that I had with Idolmania Sports Management, uh, my dad actually ended up seeing a couple of the matches, and so my dad had no idea that Tyrus was actually a pro wrestler. Had been watching him for years, had been loving everything he was putting out. My dad is a very, very big Tyrus fan, and he had no idea once Tyrus rocked out that this is the guy that was fighting. He thought whenever I said Tyrus, I was talking about somebody completely different. No, it's exactly the same guy, one and the same. And my dad is obviously got to be conflicted because he absolutely loves Tyrus, and then you got to be biased because I'm your son, I'm your big strong son. You gotta love me first before you love Tyrus.
you gotta.
You gotta. And funny enough, I don't know if he's gonna see this podcast too soon, so maybe I should hold this to my chest a little bit. But for his birthday this year, I actually ended up getting him a Tyrus themed gift. Much to my chagrin, I still have to make the old man happy, so I'm gonna get him a Tyrus themed present for his
That's
birthday.
that's actually incredible, though.
Yeah. I still try to be nice, even though obviously we have our beef between Big Strong Mims, myself, and Idolmania Sports Management and the Church's Money Enterprises. Obviously, I'm not exactly the biggest fan of them. Why should I be?
That's
Yeah,
Tyrus and Austin Idol for you, tearing families apart or trying to.
absolutely. Tear families apart. My dad's obviously on the dark side right now. At least my mom's by my side.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a kid, who were some of your favorites in the New Generation, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression? Like, were you a big fan of the SmackDown 6 at the time? Was that something you were paying attention to?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, that's when I got to watch the Ruthless Aggression era where I learned to kind of like hide what I was watching and get away with it because like I said, my mom was not a big fan of wrestling at all. Anytime she saw it, it was automatically a butt whooping and I was out of there. Um, but my favorite wrestlers from the Ruthless Aggression era obviously got to be the SmackDown Six. A lot of the biggest matches that I remember were coming from the SmackDown Six, and I mean, people kind of they kind of reference the SmackDown Six a little bit like Spider-Man Sinister Six, where you kind of just trade people in and out of there. So some people were like, "Oh, well, Edge and Rey Mysterio are clearly in it." Well, you got your Eddie Guerreros, you got your Los Guerreros, you got your World's Greatest Tag Team, and then they try to throw in a Chris Benoit or Booker T, and I'm like, we got to narrow this down to one specific SmackDown Six instead of just taking six guys. And it was and I think that's a great thing about that era of professional wrestling because there were so many stars from the top to the bottom on the low card, on the mid card, and on the upper card. There were so many stars. Everybody had something that they loved and that they liked on the show. You sat around, you watched the show for everybody. It was never just we're only coming in to see the main event, or we're only coming in to see the guys on the lower end of the card. We're only coming in to see the cruiserweights. No, we're coming in to see everybody, especially with SmackDown at the time. It was one of the hottest shows for a reason.
Yeah.
There was everything was must see.
Yeah,
So
I was 31 then, so I'm 31 now, excuse me. I wasn't 31 then.
yeah,
I'm 31 now, so that was like the prime of my fandom because obviously I love the New Generation and the Attitude Era, but a lot
mhm,
of it went past me because I was still relatively young even when I was watching it.
mhm.
But the Ruthless Aggression era into the next few years, that's when I was really the most hooked probably ever, just because that was the prime age.
Oh yeah, I was definitely very hooked at that same time too. I think I didn't start watching wrestling consistently to where I had a good strategy to make for sure I didn't get in trouble for watching it until the moment that actually caused me to say, you know what, I want to be a professional wrestler. Because, you know, at some point everybody sees professional wrestling and they say they want to do this. And everybody has that moment where they're like, oh, this is the thing I saw. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to be just like that, or live the boyhood dream, like they say. You know, I think a lot of kids in the generation before me kind of pointed to Shawn Michaels winning the world championship for the first time. Uh,
Absolutely.
but me, since I'm a little bit younger, obviously I'm about 30 years old now. My moment was actually seeing Triple H return from the Quad Tear. So it was seeing that reaction because I had
What a moment.
idea, no idea who anybody was. Had no idea who Triple H was, whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. I just see him come out, and it's this big affair. The entire crowd, they're getting tons of great shots of the crowd. The crowd is going crazy. They're going nuts. You have this guy looking like a total badass just walking out, and everybody's up on their feet for him. And I'm like, I've got to be just like this guy. I've got to cause this kind of reaction, this kind of emotional reaction. I've got to do that same thing. I've got to be able to give people this moment. I'm thinking, what did this guy do to have these people this crazy for him? To have these people this excited? People in the crowd crying, celebrating out of their seats. How do you get that same moment? How do I give that to people? And I was like, I have to dedicate my life to doing that. Now, at that point, I didn't say, hey, we're doing this right now. I didn't even come up with a plan until at least like about a decade later. But still, having that image in my head and having that be my first big wrestling moment that I saw was kind of what set me on the path to get to where I am right now.